Welcome to the Big Tech Gut Check here on Scrolling to Death, and happy 4th of July weekend. Before I get into the headlines for the week of July 1st, 2024, I want to thank this week's episode sponsor, Bark Technologies. These days, parents have a safer device option for our kids. We don't have to go with an iPhone. We can use the Bark phone, which was built for families who are looking to ramp up their child's online safety. It has parental controls built into it and allows us to manage their entire online experience super safely. More about Bark in the episode notes, but let's get into this week's updates. First up, another predator has been arrested for sextorting minors on Snapchat. This time it was 32-year-old Michael Pierce. He befriended girls on Snapchat, some under 13 years old, convinced them to send nude imagery, and then threatened to share the nude images with the child's family and friends on Snapchat if she didn't send more images. Kids are so easily drawn in on Snapchat. Adult predators can look and act like an innocent child. And then if one child adds this predator, all of that child's friends will receive quick ad recommendations from Snapchat telling the child that they know this user. They say friends is what Snapchat is all about. They encourage children to connect with strangers and reward the kids for adding and engaging with more people on Snapchat. I hate to break it to you, but Snapchat is a scary place for kids, and I encourage parents to restrict Snapchat access if possible. But if you decide to allow access for your child to Snapchat, know that you won't be able to monitor all their activity since the snaps disappear. And Snapchat also has an encrypted data vault called My Eyes Only, where they can hide even more messages, photos, and videos. If you are monitoring your child's Snapchat, don't forget to check the For You feed, which is hard to find. You need to click the little play button on the bottom right, and you'll see a feed of snaps from anyone on Snapchat, whether your child is connected or not. Also, be sure that your child has disconnected or disallowed Snap Map so that they're not constantly live streaming their exact location, your home, their school. I have a super detailed episode dropping tomorrow, Saturday, July 6th, about Snapchat. I bring in attorney Laura Marquez Garrett, and if you are at all concerned about Snapchat, or if your child is on Snapchat, please give that a listen. Moving on. Last week, there was a festival called Aspen Ideas, and this event brings together some of the world's most active and engaged thinkers to share ideas. One of these thinkers is attorney Laura Marquez Garrett, who I just mentioned. I've interviewed her many times, and she's an expert in this space. So Laura was part of a discussion called Teens and Screens, the Unabating Scourge of Social Media. Laura and her law firm, the Social Media Victims Law Center, represent over 2,000 families who have been harmed by social media, many of which lost a child. They work to hold social media companies legally accountable for these harms. So at this panel, Laura explained the blatant way that social media companies addict and exploit children, leading to deaths. The moderator then asked Laura, "Surely you have spoken with the social media companies and told them what's going on, asked them to take action." Laura then replied, "I've told them 360 times. That's the number of complaints I've filed on behalf of families." When asked how the social media companies respond, this was the interesting part. Laura shared that in court, the judge asked the attorneys who work for the social media platforms, "What duties do you have to these children? What duty do you have to design your platforms in a safe way?" The social media platforms attorneys stated, "No such duty exists under the law." Laura followed up with, quote, "In many instances, these companies are killing children and they know it, and they do nothing." So I think it's important for parents to truly understand this. The companies that create social media platforms not only disregard our children, they intentionally harm them to make money. They're allowed to do this and they know it. There's no clarifiers here. It's that plain. So what is the answer for us parents to protect our children? It's legislation, it's lawsuits, and it's parents speaking up. So let's talk about legislation. A bill that would protect kids online, appropriately named the Kids Online Safety Act, was introduced 2 years ago. It has 70 bipartisan co-sponsors in the Senate, meaning that if it gets proposed for a vote, it will pass. But for some reason, it has stalled. Many supporters of the bill this week are pointing the finger at Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer of New York and objectors like Senator Rand Paul for the holdup. Did big tech's lobbyists get to these senators and convince them to stall the bill? Maybe. Big tech is spending millions every quarter lobbying against bills like KOSA. They actually spent a combined $28 million just in the first 3 months of this year, and some of that money can go directly to the campaigns of these senators and elected officials. Big tech also funds articles that speak against KOSA and distribute them in the news. But there's literally no reason why KOSA shouldn't pass at this point. We need parents to speak up. I really encourage you, especially if your senator is Rand Paul or Chuck Schumer, But either way, go to senate.gov and house.gov, find your representatives, and email them through their websites. It takes 2 minutes. Ask them to pass KOSA. If enough parents speak up, I believe we can get this done. And what we will see is a big difference in how addictive and harmful the social media platforms are for our children. Next up, Meta's site called Threads just announced that they've reached 175 million monthly active users. Threads is like Twitter or X. It's Meta's rival to X. One important thing for parents to know about Threads: this app employs robust end-to-end encryption, which means that only the intended recipients involved in the conversations can access the messages. And when you're using end-to-end encryption on an app with children, it can lead to dangerous behavior. Lots of predators are using Threads because of this encryption, and their chats with children cannot be saved or tracked. So if your child's on Threads, you might want to check and consider blocking this app, because there's really no way to monitor who they're speaking to or if they're harmed to get any evidence of it. At the very least, and this is the most important thing, have conversations with your children about strangers on social media, on any platform, and what to look out for. Be their safe space if they encounter something harmful, because we don't know everything that's happening on these platforms. That is it for this week on the Big Tech Gut Check here on Scrolling to Death. Thank you for being part of this conversation, and I will catch you next week.